Good morning, everyone. I had you had a good the dinner last night and good set. I'm so now today I'm so wondering why I'm here as a moderator, because maybe I am the few person among you as a completely amateur for the IT world or more the cyber security areas. So when I was requested by William to be moderator for these sessions, that I completely rejected, and I said I can do anything because that I have no ideas. I can take I can play this important role. However, that yesterday I attended this meeting and I carefully listened to the discussions, and that I am working for the Nissan Motor almost 40 years, and working mainly for the management side, and I really reviewed that I was completely lack of the kind of the knowledge about IT or securities. So then, anyway, what I am now thinking is after this conference, I will talk to my colleague, my friends, how important cyber security is. Maybe I think that hyper connectivity is completely mandatory areas. We cannot avoid anything. Anyway, that increasing the connectivity in the world. So then we have to take care for the security side. At the same time, we will face big issues. So then, maybe you receive the summary page that yesterday's session. I pick up 2 or 3 sentences from this paper. The first one, and after that, I will ask to each moderators to make more, the complete summary on each session. For example, first one is education. There is a vital need to educate industry stakeholders, government and consumer about the IoT. But today's, the morning session, Mr. Kaspersky said, education is more important for the IT security specialists, especially for the university education. And by 2020, 15 or 20 billion devices will be connected to the internet through a seamless cloud. This is, that world will change. And the second, creating structure. This is also, I picked up 2 sentences. It is essential to establish a shared goal-driven multi-stakeholder network to develop regulation and security standard for IoT. Yes, I think this is quite important to make a network among all the multi-stakeholders. But unfortunately, attending this conference, there are not so many, the private sectors people, and also, the user side. There are many people for the IT company or security company or consulting and so on. But like me, the completely user side is not so many. So I think we have to strengthen more such as a network with more private sectors, more user side. This is also what I am thinking now. And another sentence is data is becoming very valuable currency in the age of the IoT. More data is being produced than ever before. Analyzing and leveraging the data is key future challenge. I think this is network. And the last one is the human factor and moral dimensions. There are undeniably serious question for privacy, human right, and legal moral responsibility with regard to the IoT and AI. We must consider what is the best approach to regulating the IoT. On the other hand, non-regulated world would be frightening and usable jungle. But on the other hand, we could easily create an over-regulated NAMI state. But this is an interesting sentence. Okay, so shall we move to the summary? And starting, Mr. Chris, we ask you to the first to summarize your session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. I will try to do a summary, but I'll also, since I'm a political scientist, I'll also raise questions as I go in a way which, of course, is probably unhelpful, but nevertheless, I'll try to be helpful. The summary that the chair has just given includes quite a few of the points I was going to make, but just to say that the issues that to remind you that we had very skilled and experienced, knowledgeable panelists, Ross Fowler, Jun Marai, Soichiro Murata, Giuseppe Taggia, and who were experts in the IoT and the future, and we did a lot of discussion on that. And the issues that we covered, as you know, need to educate industry stakeholders about IoT risks and opportunities. We didn't talk too much about educating the industry itself, about what's happening outside it. But maybe that's something we should pick up now. The data architecture must be decided, lack of public trust about new technology paradigms, and we went into that in some depth in terms of how to maintain, restore, build public trust. Resilience is necessary to prepare for unknown threats, and we need a risk-benefit balance. As benefits increase, risk does too. So those are the issues we covered. We talked about key points such as facilitating industry-government cooperation. I would be also interested in adding academia to that, and massive institutions which are producing a large percentage of the research productivity of our nations. And the network I represent, if you put it on a graph in terms of research productivity, 45 research universities produce, its productivity in research is greater than all but two nations, China and the US. We talk about how IoT can maximize and optimize device functionality, benefiting people by providing contextual experience, enabling mass customization. The necessity of building security into every element of future networks and the hyper-connected world. So those are the issues. I would highlight, actually in terms of the conclusions or synopsis, we need to identify new opportunities, not only threats of the IoT. We need to grasp the benefits of data and growth of big data, and that's more or less the same point. We need to work to make it more secure in terms of standards and policy. That's been mentioned already. And I've also mentioned public trust. IoT is the future direction of the market. Now, just to lead us on a little bit further in this discussion this morning, I thought I would mention, and many of you may have read it already, a 300-page Bank of America report along with Merrill Lynch on creative disruption and a transforming world. And it says there are three ecosystems of creative disruption: IoT, the sharing economy, and online services. It distinguishes those three. It forecasts that 47% of all workers in the US, including white-collar workers, and 35% of all workers in the UK will be replaced by machines. Unlike previous eras, this technological shift will not create as many new jobs as previous periods of innovation. There will be two kinds of people, those who own AI and those who don't. All these conclusions remain to be tested, of course, but the report concludes fairly convincingly that there will be a worsening of inequality, relatively low-skilled workers will be replaced, highly educated knowledge workers and shareholders will capture the gains, and this is, of course, a massively good recipe for social unrest. I thought I'd leave it there.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Yamo.
Thank you very much, and good morning also from my behalf. And I have to say that I had also extremely good panelists yesterday, so thanks to them also. To summarize our discussions shortly, there were actually three main themes in our panel yesterday. We talked about the future, we talked about the biggest security challenges in this future vision, and then we also talked about the concrete actions and also the measurements what we have to do. So summarizing these three main themes and giving my personal point of view also to each of these themes that I was a little bit surprised that wasn't brought up will now follow. First of all, I think we very much agreed about the vision of the future in yesterday's panel. What can be digital will be digital in the future. And the cybersecurity experts are the safeguardians of this digital change. And also we agreed that the speed of the change and innovation is accelerating all the time. And one of the challenges at the moment is that the technology is developing faster than security. And also the massive increase in data collected and transmitted was one of the issues for the future. Then of course we talk about lots of the education yesterday, and like Mr. Kaspersky said this morning, one of the biggest challenges in this field is to guarantee that we will have these talented individuals and skilled individuals in the future who can actually do the job. And I would argue, from my personal point of view, that even if there is a lot of discussion at the moment about the cyber arms race in the world, I would say that there is an even bigger race at the moment in the world on these talented individuals. Because they are the most valuable asset what you can have, people. But at the same time, too often we are concentrating too strongly that we need these technologically very skillful hackers. Of course we need them. But at the same time, my argument here is a little bit different. I say that in coming years, the most important and most precious cybersecurity experts will not be those ones concentrating on specific technological issues, but the ones to have the ability to understand the bigger picture, to understand the complexity of the security environment, including physical and digital together. And those kind of people and talented individuals are needed also. Then the second point was about the threats and the security. And once again, we very much agreed that security has to be into every element of this digital transformation, and security of the whole chain must be ensured. Of course, we talk about the resilience, about the backup systems, and so on. And when we talk about quite a lot actually about the self-driving cars, we heard that the development will go step by step forward. And we almost got a promise that within the next 100 years we will have flying cars from Toyota. But then at the same time, I would say that when we are talking about the threats in cyber in coming years, I think we really have to understand the interconnection between the physical world and this digital domain. And I was a little bit surprised that when we have the panel to talk about the cyber connections and data connections, we didn't talk anything about the physical infrastructure of these data connections. And I see my argument here is, and I believe that these undersea cables, this lifeline of the internet, they will be much more important topic in international discussions in coming years than they are at the moment. Like we have heard in the news, for example, from the United States and their east coast, or for example from the Baltic Sea in Scandinavia, where we expect that there might be some kind of espionage on these cables. But once again, when we come back to the resilience, I think the main question here is not if the cable can be cut or not. The main question is how long does it take to locate that problem place and how fast you can prepare it. So this physical-digital interconnection, the security environment, from the threat point of view, I see will be one of the most critical questions in coming years. Then the third one, we talk about the concrete actions and also about the issues that will raise in coming years. And I think we had a very good points in our panel when we talk about the importance of the human science in coming years. And I think it was a very good point also that we understood that, okay, these issues cannot be solved only via technological solutions. So what we are actually talking about here is a pretty big cultural change what is happening. But then I was once again a little bit surprised, my third point, that we didn't discuss so much about the trust. And as security professionals, we know that there can't be security without trust. And there can't be trust without security, on the other hand. And by my experience, and please say if you disagree with me, what I have seen the development during the last few years globally, both in the academia where I work and also in the business life where I work, when we talk about the cybersecurity, there's an increasing discussion about to whom you can trust, to which companies you can trust, to which nation states you can trust. And in that case, this trust discussion, I believe, will be more vital in coming years. Thank you.
Dot, please, summary the session.
Thank you. And first I want to thank you, Shiga-san, for your opening comments and your wonderful humility as a great leader, which is one of the... Oh, I'm sorry. I should turn it on. That would be helpful, huh? It's always these human factors. We had the discussion. I did the same thing yesterday. You'd think I would learn, but I'm only human. So I need the pocket robot to tell me. I was just going to say, Shiga-san, that I'm so impressed by your humility as a great leader, vice chairman of Nissan, and I think that's one of the wonderful aspects of Japanese culture. And in our sessions, we talked about this incredible complexity in the Internet of Things. The reality is, it's not the technical details that will get us to where we need to go. It's wisdom. And I thank you for demonstrating that. And we had a great panel. We had Joe here, Joe Hall from CDT, Rahman Chima from Access Now, Yoshihiro Kawahara-san from Todai. We had Kwek-Yu Chung from ICANN, and Makiko Yamada-san, formerly from the Prime Minister's office and now working for IOC, which is the Industrial Internet Consortium here in Japan. And we had this discussion, and we had great participation from the audience. We did a large number of polls, at least 10 polls of the audience. We had over 20 people contributing thoughts, and one of the first thoughts contributed from the back corner here, I think from Steve, was saying that, you know, are we living in a cyber jungle, you know, or are we going to live in a cyber nanny state? Or one person expressed concern of that we're in this jungle, there's too many things, there's too many snakes, too many insects, so many things that can jump out in the Internet of Things. And someone said, no, I'm not worried about the jungle. I'm worried about governments over-regulating and slowing the system down and slowing the benefits to humans. And then we had a discussion, and we polled the audience, and we said, what do you think? How many people are worried about innovation going out of control and harming, or how many want more regulation? And no one voted for regulation. So the entire room voted in favor of keeping the system open, and allowing things to evolve quickly. And I think that was a good summary of what we went through. We talked about the challenges and issues of privacy, protecting privacy with millions of devices around. We even polled the room. We came up with an estimate that in the room we had at least 500 computers in the room, between the Fitbits and phones and PCs and terminals and devices. We thought we had at least 1,200 sensors in the room. We probably have more today. And we did a forecast that here in 20 years, the estimate was about 10 million sensors in this room. Okay, could well be here in terms of smart dust and every kind of sensor you can imagine. So we talked about this world, and we talked about how it's challenging to regulate. And so I appreciated Yamada-san's comments very much in talking about the IIC here in Japan having 900 companies talking and working together in a multi-stakeholder process to discuss how should we handle the evolution of the Internet of Things, We learned a bit as well about the collaboration in the automotive sector that's going on. That's a good example for the world. We learned something very interesting too, which is as we move to the Internet of Things, we really have to move away from IPv4, Internet Protocol version 4, that only had 4.3 billion addresses, and move to IPv6. And what country in the world is helping lead there? Japan. Japan has 34%, I guess, of the addresses used actively in this country are already IPv6, and that's a result of the decision of the Japanese government to prioritize IPv6 deployment over the last 10 years and rolling it out successfully, which we decided we also felt is a good indicator of how Japan can be a leader in the Internet of Things as well, because it takes a commitment and a decision by the country and the people and the companies to make the moves. So some of the other things I want to just briefly mention that I think were implied by the discussion and are worth mentioning are the following. And that is, in the Internet of Things, we still have all the same security problems we have today with our computers and our phones. In addition, we have a whole set of new problems to deal with. Those include low power. These are very low power devices. That has an impact on security. They're very small size, so they're difficult to physically manipulate. They're the size of our fingernail now, and it's moving to the size of our blood cells within 30 years. So small size, that leads to latency. Low power leads to latency. Latency means you're not always connected. That creates a new set of security vulnerabilities as well as opportunities. The sheer number, we're talking about billions of devices, that changes the security topology and domain. It causes problems such as enrollment. I mean, let's say you scattered 1 million pieces of smart dust in this room to measure dirt in the floor, and so that the carpet can communicate with the robot on how to clean things. How do you get to enroll those? What network do those IoT objects belong to? What if they stick to your shoes and you walk out of the room and you go to another room, another building? Do they reassign and enroll in that network, or are they rogue IoT? So you have enrollment issues. And you also got this duration and latency issue, which is that IoT objects like cars, you make a car, it's around for 10 or 20 years. It's not like a smartphone or PC that we tend to throw away after a few years. So, and in the industrial environment, in the power systems, these devices are there for decades. So there's a duration and a longevity. So these characteristics, low power, small size, latency, the sheer numbers, the dispersion, enrollment issues, duration, and longevity of the devices, they introduce a new set of challenges in addition to all the other challenges we already have with the IoT. And then, of course, these objects are going to talk up to the cloud through whichever wireless communication technology. They'll be linked to the cloud, and a whole set of issues there. So anyway, we had a really great, lively conversation. And I think that the conclusion was, none of us know where this is going to go, but it's going to be very exciting. We see a lot of benefit for mankind. And we talk a lot about the risks here at a kind of a cyber conference and a government conference. But the reality is there's untold benefits. And in the absence of knowing what is going to be most valuable and what's going to be most damaging, the policies for regulation we talked about is human life at stake. And if human life is at stake, and we know that it's something as risky human life, then government should intervene and look at policies. And otherwise, maybe they'll manage it through existing frameworks that the IoT objects fall in. The example was drones, so we talked a lot about drones and how in America there's now, you have to have a license plate or register your drone, which is kind of a lesson from the aviation industry. So we took it out, so that, the drone, it looks like aviation, it looks like a plane. Let's take a legal construct and practice out of that to get control of it. So we're going to see a lot of that kind of activity is what we discussed. And all, I think it was a very, very hearty conversation. It was realistic. And we had both fear and a lot of hope and a good discussion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rod. And yesterday, that during the 3 sessions, I had very fundamental questions about the cyberspace and cyber securities. My question was the speed of the increase the connectivities is faster than the development of the cybersecurity, technological development. For example, that for the I am the automotive company, so that I raise an example through the automotive industry. For the emerging countries, before establishing the good infrastructure, road infrastructures, if the increase of the car sales, that same time, that the accident will increase. And now that 1.2 million people die because of the car, that accident. In case of Japan, 1970s, around 14,000 people died because of traffic accident. After that, infrastructure has gone well, and good license and education and so on. So now that decreasing up to 4,000 people, but still 4,000 people died in Japan. Okay, my question is, compared with connectivity and cybersecurities, for example, that for the road infrastructures, that the car technology for the safe device and road infrastructures and traffic, the signal and so on, and traffic law or regulations, and driver license or driver capabilities, and also, that drivers' traffic manner or morale, and also police. These elements is, that are affected to reduce the traffic accident usually. So my question is, for the cyber securities, which element is most affectable, most important element to reduce, that cyber accident or cyber attack? For example, today is education, the networking, and the law, regulations, and also the police. This is my simple questions. But if our capability to improve our technology for the cyber security is less than that black hackers technologies, we cannot control it. So that means even though the cyberspace we cannot manage, we cannot control. This is there is a word that only the human race can use the fire because human race can manage the fire. But that among the animals, the monkey cannot use fire because they cannot manage the fire. So this is my question. So which element is most important for the control and manage for the cyberspace?
I'll share just a few thoughts, and all of us are learning, and the reality is to think about these problems and primary approaches that can affect and impact. We have to develop simplified models of this incredibly complex space. So I'm going to present some simplified ideas that I believe can be helpful and useful based on experience. So the first thing is, Kaspersky mentioned this morning, and it was discussed in the first panel yesterday, we're short 1 million or 2 million people in the world in the security field. We just don't have the human capability. Given that, it means you have to automate. So you have to move to automation technology to get higher levels of security. That's one point, and I'll talk about how to do that in a second. The next point is, one way to look at where we're going with the technology is two places. The cloud, so we're moving from the enterprise networks, we're moving most of our systems up in the cloud. That's a new domain. It has some great security promise. The public cloud providers are absolutely fantastic security providers for their technology overall, not perfect, but very good. But they're not going to secure your enterprise applications, okay? You're going to have to worry about that and work with other security vendors because the big players don't want that liability. But so moving to cloud and having security there allows a lot of automation and a lot of leverage and fewer people. So than trying to manage all your firewalls and intrusion detection, all that stuff you've got to do in the enterprise network. So the cloud movement's important. The next point is with our phones and with IoT, we need really good endpoint technology solutions. And we need to have automation around that, updating and securing the endpoint devices. And the next piece is education. So those would be some of the themes. The next thing I would say for automation is artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I mentioned this yesterday morning briefly in the conversation. The real information sharing 3 years from now, if we meet in this room, very important information sharing will be done by machine learning devices, sharing behavioral patterns and scripts and abstractions with each other that we humans can't even understand, that are hacking behaviors and automated script behaviors. So AI promises tremendous breakthroughs on the defense side. It will get picked up even more by the offense side, so you're going to have a very fast cyber warfare game of artificial intelligence machines on offense and defense. But I think that there's really great promise on the defense side. And the last thing that I'll mention is we've got to look at cyber risk management. And what I would say to any chairman or CEO of a company is if you can't put any price or estimate on your expected cyber losses, then you don't really understand the risk. Right? Because every other dimension of risk we quantify, whether it's lives in car wrecks or airplane, but we quantify and we put a price and a value on it. We have to get that done. And I want to mention too, the World Economic Forum and many people that are at this event made huge contributions to advancing that field through, they had an effort on quantification of cyber risks that went on for 2 years that has really contributed to beginning to put together the framework for thinking. So we're going to have to develop cyber risk management, move to automation, focus on securing the cloud, good infrastructure, focus on securing the endpoints. That's my simplified model for today.
Very good points, I have to say, and I fully agree. I asked yesterday the audience that how many of the people in the audience believe that we will have more intelligent computers than humans within the next 5 years. And 10% approximately of the audience say that yes, we will have that. Then at the same time, I have to say that listening this panel, this whole conference, this is extremely exciting times what we are living. In a way, I could say that we are living in the crossroads, and being in this business, being with these issues, I would say that we are privileged to be there. Because this is the crossroads when we are talking about the future. And like even Rod can say to us that, okay, what will be the exact future after a few years if we just look at the changes, what has happened, for example, during the last 2 or 3 years. And the speed is accelerating all the time. And then, of course, we have to understand, and what makes me a little bit scary, is the increasing strategic importance of this whole cyber domain, especially from the warfare and the nation state's point of view. I personally believe that there exists already very strategic and very high sophisticated cyber weapons in a way, but they have not been used yet. And my biggest fear in that phase when someone starts to use those strategic cyber weapons is that what will be the unpredictable side effects of those attacks, because no one knows that what will happen in this interconnected world. And then at the same time, this is a huge demand and requirement for the universities to educate these people. Like you mentioned, and there was a very good report a few months ago from the Dean and Frost saying that within the next 5 years there will be 1.5 million shortage of the cybersecurity experts in the world. And at the same time, okay, we are educating, for example, Finland more and more these skillful, talented people to work in this business. But then at the same time, it's very challenging to train them, because what is new today can be old after 2 years. So you really have to re-educate yourself all the time, and educate the right skills also plays a great challenge. But then I also have to say that I think more or less everyone in this room, we are not the future in a way. There's a huge cultural transformation happening when I'm thinking about the diginatives, the people who has been living all their lives when there has been internet available. I have not, even you not, Bart. And I really see that when I see these young students, under 20, or my own kids, less than 10 years old, their way of thinking these issues is pretty different. And I am pretty sure also, and I believe that when they come a little bit older, and when they are trying to find the solutions, they're starting models, and their brains are a little bit like a different than ours, who have been trying to facilitate to live in this internet era, which wasn't present in our childhood. And this takes a little bit time, but I think we will see a big cultural change here when these diginatives comes into the power.
Yes, I have just a few comments which arise not from any expertise about the IoT, but more from an outsider's perspective. I agree that there will be massive benefits, and it's a very exciting age that we're in. And the technological innovations that are about to come will be greater than any we've seen in the last 50 years. And the role of universities in education is important, but on the other hand, we also educate economists, and the outcome is not necessarily stunning. So we need to look at how we educate and for what reason, and also how universities are challenged, of course, to interact with industry and with government in a way that will shape the future, not simply observe it or say whatever we do in terms of research, it's not our responsibility how they're used. I think we have to, now that universities are making money out of innovations, we have to actually start taking responsibility for the way in which they're used. But I would return to the observation I made yesterday a little bit, which was I mentioned James Martin, who's ranked 4th among 25 individuals who've had most influenced the world of computer science. Computer world ranked him in that way. And he said that not only will be the huge technological change across many dimensions, more than we've seen till date, but he also saw the possibility quite strongly of he says, a possibility of giga-famines and the death of 1 billion people, alongside the emergence of eco-affluence and extension of current global inequalities with an adjusted set of beneficiaries and victims and even higher stakes. So I'm not sure that we can avoid responsibility for thinking about that, and how do we construct a multi-stakeholder dialogue that actively works across different sectors to shape the future in a way that brings the benefits to the majority rather than just distributes them according to existing patterns of wealth or where you happen to live in a better climate zone when disaster strikes. So these are the issues that concern me. They're not technical issues in one sense, but in another sense they will affect all of us.
Yeah, because I am completely not so familiar for this, the IT or security areas. So that I have a very simple question. For example, that the IoT is become kind of the industrial revolutions, like the Germans say, the industrial 4.0. So then, in order to improve the productivities, or in order to compete with globally, that the IoT is completely mandatory tool for everybody. What I understand through this conference. Yeah? And yesterday was session that the government attended this session, and she said Japan is now organizing IoT consortium and to expand the usage of the IoT for everybody. My question is, that For example, yesterday's Minister Amari said Japanese government is now aiming to reach 600 trillion GDP from 500 GDPs. In order to do so, that we have to increase the annually 3% GDPs. But on the other was that from 500 to 600 within 5 years, we have to improve the productivity 20%. But in other words, also we have to increase the wage 20%. You know? This is not only for the large companies. This is also for the small, medium-sized companies. Actually, if I see industrial revolution 1, 2, 3, especially revolution 3 is kind of the factory automation. The factory automation is good to improve the productivity for the large companies, but the small, medium-sized company using the manual operations in order to compete for the large companies. Then they have to control the wage for the workers. So then, IoT for everybody, internet for everybody. In order to improve the productivity in industries, I am the industrial guy. So for the such as small, medium companies, they cannot invest so much for the IoT and also for the securities. Even though everybody is saying education is important, and also the company should have kind of the expert for the securities. But unfortunately, large company can afford to recruit such a people. The small company is not easy. So I understand as a concept, IoT is good for everybody, and big data, AI is good for everybody. But only my simple question is only large company can enjoy. So do you have any good idea, to secure, to improve the cyber security for the even small company or the medium company or even individual? Is there any ideas? This is a quite important question for me for the growth in Japan.
So I have some thoughts on this. The first point of which is because the network speed is so high globally now, bandwidth is so high, latency is so low, it makes it possible to deliver outsourced services to the small companies. So for example, I know a small company in the US, I'm not going to mention their name, but there's a number of them that deliver enterprise-grade security of firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, et cetera, to your home or to a small business. You put a device in there and all your traffic is going through a complete stack of world-class security that you can buy from best companies out there. But that wasn't possible 2 years ago. So that allows a small, even a local pizza store or Lawson's or whatever it is, local retail store or a small business, a mechanic shop, and the cost of that only $80 a month in the United States, $1,000 a year for technology from one of the top firewall providers, delivered by a third-party service. So it's a new category of service happening. The next point is, and one of the goals I have is, one of the companies I'm involved with is a company in stealth mode, and our goal is to create this machine learning device that actually watches 100% of the traffic. So just like a firewall or IDS, it sits behind those, watches 100% of traffic, and is picking up to 90% being malicious that's coming into banks, 90, okay, is detecting that was undetected by all the other technology. We're going to be able to deliver that to small businesses because it's in the cloud, it's virtualizable. So that same technology that could help protect, the Olympics in Japan or wherever else. So we're going to, again, that's this cloud movement I talked about a bit, is we're going to see moving to that virtual environment, you'll be on a secure public platform, and then there's got to be additional service offerings up there. But that'll be turnkey, click on it, choose the technology you want. You're not going to have an IT department because a small company doesn't have that. So I see a lot of promise in new offerings. And I think Japan might want to look at a couple of companies that are springing up in the United States that are doing this kind of work and see if it makes sense. I mean, every country and every environment's different.
Very good and very challenging question also. And this brings now back to put my professor hat into my head to think about what is actually security. And if we want to improve security, that has to happen in 4 different areas, in every one of them. First of all, like Rod said, we have to change the reality. We have to change how things are. That is one way to improve security. Then we have to remember, and I think this will become even more important in this digital era, that security is always a feeling. It's always very personal feeling how secure I feel that I am, or my company, or the whole world is. The reality and the feeling might be different. They might go in the same path. And for example, in the warfare, I believe that in next decade, the biggest battles actually will happen in human minds, fighting for the feelings. Then the third one, the third area of the security is always resilience. So whatever we do, we fully understand that there can't be 100% security. And the resilience can be divided in the physical resilience and then to the mental resilience. And what I'm more worried when I look at the future of the cybersecurity is especially this mental resilience of our humans. Because we live in such trust societies and we trust very strongly that this digital domain is working more or less all the time. And now I really come back to these diginatives who can be very mentally disturbed when the Facebook is down for 10 minutes. And then, of course, the fourth point, what security is, it's about the culture. And from the security researcher's point of view, I would say that when I compare changing the reality, feeling, resilience, or the culture is the hardest thing to change. It takes time. And I think we are just taking the early steps in a way that creating this digital security culture.
Yes, my comments, again, not as an expert that my fellow panelists obviously have, but just to pick up on that last point, in terms of resilience and trust, I think one of the parts to the discussion is that of ethics or morality that we need to do in terms of education. And already the current young generation have been mentioned in terms of the way they view the world. And the way they view the world seems to be often in terms of various dystopias, like the Hunger Games or District 9 and that kind of thing, and how they see technology, how they see the future. And for those of us who think, as I do, that the future is pretty bright in terms of the effect of technology, the younger generation would appear not totally to agree.
Thank you very much. Really, the good answers. I understand, that this conference, you talking about the technologies, education, and so on, as a fundamental that everybody, or especially for the management people, should have kind of the mental resilience or sensibility for the securities, or knowledge, at least knowledge for the securities or understanding. So anyway, as far as I understand, one of the big purpose of this conference, as I heard from the Williams, this conference should be more, that kind of the open conference and multi, that the stakeholders can attend to understand, that how important for cyber connectivities and how important for the cyber securities. This is basic, but as far as I understand, most of all the people around me is more, that the kind of the chief information officers or IT company or security companies. So the issue is, in Japan, yesterday also that minister said, just last year, Japan made a law of the cybersecurity law, and also, that tried to communicate how important for the cybersecurities. And however, still, that the kind of the understanding or sensibilities or the priorities as a management. From my personal point of view, is not so much higher, especially in Japan. I don't know that your countries compared with your countries. For example, that yes, when I was CEO of Nissan Motors, I was chief, the compliance officers and risk management, internal control of the company from the corporate governance point of view. I was worked. But the cyber security or information security issues, one of the internal control issues. For me, even though around 20 years working for as a management members, this is first time for me to understand how important for the securities from the management point of view. How, that you are expert of this field. So then, especially to the Japanese company, do you have any concrete the suggestions or recommendation how to improve kind of the company's interest or priorities for the security issues? Do you have any ideas? Especially for the Japanese company, as far as I understand, compared to other, that Western companies, Japan is a little bit less, the interest, especially for the management people. So
You are very modest.
I don't know the modest one.
Well, a short comment on that very good point, and I think it's very same question in Europe at the moment, in many European countries, because in these questions, I see that we lag behind the United States, for example, at least most of the European countries. I think this is once again the ability to understand the bigger picture. And I have been very delighted to see the development, what has been happening during last 2 years in the United States, where the very big companies like JB Morgan, General Motors, Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, and that kind of very big companies, they are hiring cybersecurity experts to be the board members in their very up board in their companies, because they understand the strategic importance of the functions and the reliable of this digital domain. Because if the cyber domain or digital domain is not working, how you do your administration, your sales, your marketing, it's nearly impossible. So they really understand, these big companies, that this is very strategically important issues, and there has to be very talented, strategically capable people to sit in their boards in their companies. And little by little, we have starting to see the same kind of development, for example, in Finland or in European countries. But we are coming a little bit behind the United States here.
Sure. The first thing is, Shiga-san, is this is a global phenomenon. And every survey, in fact, some consultants in this room recently did surveys of CEOs in America and Europe, found the same thing. 85% of board members, I believe, in North America, feel they do not understand cyber risks. So this is a global phenomenon. And it has to do in part with complexity, also anthropology.
and the fact that we failed to do our job in the security field for the executives. In the following sense, by anthropology, what I mean is every school, whether it's a manufacturing engineer, or in this case, software engineers, and network engineers, and now security engineers, they have their own language. They have their own knowledge, ways of looking at problems, very, very specialized. And we have failed to develop the language to talk to leadership. And this is why I'm so excited about the field of risk management, is the boards understand how to talk about risk. 30 years ago, there wasn't as much knowledge on how to talk about market risk or credit risk. And then value at risk got developed, and now boards have enterprise risk reporting that comes through the audit committee, through the CFO's office. Well, cyber risk, as it says in the summary report of the conference, needs to get integrated into enterprise risk management. It needs to get quantified so that the CISO can have a discussion with you as the vice chairman and say, here's the things we have at risk in the organization. Here's the probability of attack that we think we may have. And here's the kind of losses we could have. And here's some of the investments we can make to deal with it. And discuss it as a risk-based, intelligent decision. We haven't done that. So we owe this to you, the leaders, to come up, I think, with this communication. And the next thing that I'll say is, and we ourselves are overwhelmed by this complexity. These systems can be hacked from the CAD CAM, from the CAE, from the electronic design level in the silicon can be hacked, to the physical layout on the boards, to the firmware, every single layer, of the OSI stack and in the hardware, everything can be hacked. And it's a massively complex problem. But whenever there's massive complexity, we have to figure out how to integrate and have models for thinking about the problem. Same thing with a car. A car is a very complex thing, but you've developed your thoughts of how to describe that and manage the risks and manage the engineering in different pieces. So I think we have to do a better job as an industry. And the last thing I just want to mention, because I come from Silicon Valley, and a lot of people are not familiar with why Silicon Valley happened. How many people here know why Silicon Valley started in where it started? Okay. It was one professor in engineering at Stanford University, Frederick Terman, in the early 1950s, said, we have a good engineering school at Stanford, but it's not good enough. So I want to go partner with industry and government. I want direct partnerships. We'll even create a campus to create companies and for companies to come to, so that we're working on real-world engineering problems. In the 1950s, Silicon Valley was born on the Stanford campus. HP's corporate offices, Hewlett-Packard, is still on Stanford Lane, where they started. But that vision of partnering with industry led to the radical change in Stanford that led to Googles and Yahoos and thousands of companies. We're working on the same thing at Stanford right now for cybersecurity. Even though Stanford is in the heart of Silicon Valley, we have not had a cybersecurity program. We have computer science, symbolics, artificial intelligence. We have law, policy, ethics, Hoover Institution. We're creating now the cybersecurity program at Stanford University. And I'm involved as one of the founding sponsors to help create this. And what we want to do is, just like the engineering school, start with 10 key business or government partners around the world that want to help sponsor the research and sponsor the development of the program in artificial intelligence, in risk management, in mobility, in law, in ethics, even cyber philosophy, by the way. We don't have a philosophy for cybersecurity. We need to develop a philosophy and the thought concepts, because the domain is completely new. Anyway, that's something I'm involved in, and as Chris mentioned, and he's the academic expert, Christopher. But if anyone's interested in becoming part of that, we already have a few leading companies in America in the security field very interested in getting involved. But we'd love to have engagement from Japan. Thanks.
Well, just to pick up on that, and we're lucky enough to have Stanford as one of our members, and we have 45 universities all challenged in this area and needing to pick up, as you say, on cybersecurity, because they have such massive research enterprises, which are all the time dealing with tech transfer, IP issues, as well as, of course, the total institutions. So I would just endorse that point and say that We have meetings of our network of CIOs and so on, but it never produces across 45 universities in 16 different jurisdictions. The complexity of the discussion is quite significant even on simple IP issues. So this is a challenge for us, and it's worth raising it at this point. Thank you.
Related to these issues, as the automakers, technological issues, I raise one question. That for the, as you know, currently, we conduct a lot of the recall for the repair, and almost 40% is just reprogramming of the, ICU or ECU and also inside cars. The reprogramming. But now that we are asking to the customers to come to our dealers to repair, even though reprogram. Technically, that for the connected car, that we can remote to repair over the years. As far as I know, only one automotive company, which is Tesla, is now doing over-the-air repair. Why? That the conventional automotive company hesitating to use this over-the-air reprogramming, because, as far as I understand, I don't know the real reason, but as far as I understand, the automaker has no good tool to protect, 100% protect for the hacking to the car. Yeah? So then, this is completely inconvenient for the customers. And for the automaker side, also we have to spend huge amount of money for the recall fee or repairment fee to the dealers or to the customers. So then, this is big questions, that a hesitation to use the cyber connectivity is one of the big risks for the, hacking or cyber attack. So how do you think, that this is right decision for the automakers in order to protect the customer, or automakers should take a risk? I don't know that this is a little specific question for me.
I can respond because I drive a Tesla, and I've had Japanese cars for years, but I got a Tesla because I wanted that high-performance vehicle. And I'll give you a little security story, which is that I will not plug my phone into the USB charging station in the Tesla, because the Tesla has, I think, 100 or 200 CPUs in it, 5 different complete installations of operating systems. It's got a switch in it. It runs Linux-based operating systems. There's already viruses and hacks that can move from your phone to the car and back. And one way you avoid that is by using the cigarette lighter to charge your phone. So I have a cigarette to USB, so all I get is power going into my phone. But let me tell you, try to tell that to your kids who drive your car, or your wife, or other people. They're like, why do you have this stupid thing? I just want to plug in these USBs. So it shows there are vulnerabilities, clearly. And while I have the car, I don't really want the self-driving option. Not that I think self-driving's bad and not going to work. I'm just a paranoid guy. I'm a security guy, so I don't want the thought of somebody playing, with that thing. But I have to say the convenience of the software updates over the network, it's terrific. I just got a significant upgrade recently with higher quality graphics and computations of energy usage and everything. Anyways, so I think it works, and I think things are going to go there, which is a general trajectory of technology, which is we go for functionality, we go for performance, and then security gets kind of tacked on afterwards. And the iPhone is a perfect story. iPhone 1 had 0 security. Anyone could rootkit it basically. Today, Apple's done, quite a good job overall. So, with the cars, they're out there, and, Japanese engineering is great, so I'm sure you'll do a good job of figuring out how to do it.
Just one car is hacked, for the Chrysler, that they have to conduct a recall around 1.4 million cars. This is big. But anyway, do you have any ideas?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to apologise to you and to the audience and my panellists. I have to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There is no other, message, other last. But this is, the Tesla case. Very honestly speaking, this is, the car is not, car used to be 90% hardware product. And now becoming more software product. However, this is my personal point of view. This is not only for the Nissan, but also all makers. That the kind of the literacy of the software itself is not so strong. So a completely different approach. So this is my personal, concern, that we have to compete with Apple or Google. They are now developing the cars and fully connected. And Apple said already that the automotive car will be, the perfect mobile device. I don't know what kind of the service they can provide to the customers, but this is big threat or fear for the automotive companies. But anyway, this is also one of the ideas. We have to improve our capability for the softwares or cyber connectivity and things. Okay, so we have around 15 minutes remain, and I'd like to ask the question for the audience for these sessions. And please. Microphone.
My name is Peter Moore from Amazon Web Services. I want to ask a question related to the last topic, which is about, how is it that Tesla can get away with having a car out there that's updated over the air, and why does, one of our top security people in the world feel comfortable driving around in that versus the traditional automotive manufacturers, Nissan, Ford, GM, who are afraid to do that. And I want to sort of propose something, and I'd be interested in the views of the people, which is, if you're a company like Tesla and you're trying to sort of just leap ahead of everyone else, and you say, well, we're going to do this, so we need to secure the platform, the client platform, versus companies that say, well, it's too risky to actually do this over-the-air update, so we'll just leave the client platform like it is. And then, as was mentioned, people come along and plug their smartphone into their audio system, which is connected to their navigation system, which is connected to their steering wheel and their brake, and that's okay. So I guess I think this is one example, but mobile phones are another example. All the Android hacks that are out there at the moment, it's a scary place. And I just feel like the client devices, whether it be an automobile or a phone or a refrigerator, no one's really putting the effort into securing those end devices like they should. Maybe if they said, well, the only way for us to be successful is to be able to connect to them permanently, therefore we have to secure them, maybe that will make things work much better.
Actually, I'm not engineer, so that this is my feeling. Actually, for the traditional automotive companies, if we don't have 100% secure to the safety of the car, that we have some hesitation to connect. And especially for the remote, over-the-air repairment. However, maybe all the automakers will move to this direction because already, vehicles has already started to connect to the internet. And only one side, the one-way connect now, not connected from the air to the car. So that means, this is interesting. If someone enters to the car, we have to change. We have to, immediately we have to repair by over the years. If we don't have the dysfunctions, only the hacker can enter the car. So that from the functional point of view, this is I'm really amateur for the AG. I'm not the sales and marketing guy. So this is there is one chief that the information officer here. So I asked him to answer. But my feeling is we need such as functions to repair for the car.
Okay, I'll try to give you a little bit of perspective. Maybe someone would be a much better person to answer that. But from my point of view, okay, it is just comparing like analog technology with digital technology. Tesla was built based on digital DNA there. We have a lot of engines, we have a lot of transmission there that if you compare an electric vehicle with a combustion-based vehicle, your number of parts is less than 50%. So the hurdle to get into this, it's much easier to disrupt the automotive with electric cars than with the old stuff there. And we are looking into the over-the-air technology there. But if you see that most of the connected vehicles today, they still are using 2G or 3G. Probably Tesla is on a 4G there. So over there, you need more bandwidth. And today, our connect cards are not, the connections are not that level. There are still discussion about, are you going to allow over there for the ECU, or are you going to allow over there for the infotainment? For the EV, probably, it is a much easier problem to solve. On the combustion engine, the traditional car is that you have so many other components that you have electric components and mechanical components, so you need to test that to see how the car, the whole system will work together. And that's the part that makes the over there for our traditional guys like us to adopt the same technology that Tesla does that. But we're going to be there because technology is available. It's a lot of open source stuff. So it's just a matter of top management make the decision that we'll take the risk. We didn't design our systems to be updated. That's it. That's the way the mechanical engineers, because they need to put everything together, where software engineers that you can have modules and then you can basically add it or interface and integrate the modules as you need it. Mechanic, everything needs to be put together to work. That's the mechanic limitations. And that's how the mechanical engineers are trained, where we want to break down the problems, create modules, and integrate modules. And mechanical guys, they don't get that.
Okay, many people is raise a hand. Okay.
Hi, Vivek Kundra from Salesforce. Just a question from a business perspective for Shika-san and for Rod. When you think about it at the board level, and I look at every industry, whether it's the auto industry or retail or transportation, the pace of disruption is so great that it seems like the companies that are overly obsessed from a cyber perspective, they're kind of falling behind. I mean, let's look at BlackBerry versus the iPhone. Or if you look at the future of auto, it seems to me that the company that's going to win the future, the battle for the future, is the one that has the best software engineers. We kind of know that future and what it's going to look like. So how do you, in the board context, think about this massive disruption coming from a business perspective and consumers really want it, and balancing that against kind of cyber and not being the most secure company, but you're left behind?
Maybe, as I said, maybe I am only one guy who are not so much familiar for the IT world or cyber space, So First one, you coming from the Salesforce, huh? That I received that some, the offer from the Salesforce 3 or 4 years ago. At that time, Nissan still have the customer data, around 5 million customer data in our own servers. So then I asked to the Salesforce, which is, safer than our own server or Salesforce server or cloud. From completely 100% amateur management guy, what is cloud? This is feeling. And so then I visited to the Salesforce, and I met the chief trust officers. And I asked him, please give me, confidence that Nissan can use for the Salesforce servers, even the cloud. He said, we are employing best hacker always. Maybe Nissan doesn't, so we are more safer. Very good answers. But actually, this is the kind of the gap between, the traditional, general, industry companies. This is kind of the common understanding. So how to close this gap, or how to improve the understanding for the security or cyber space? I think this is important. But this is one of the, the example. Maybe you can understand the situation.
Just to add some thoughts, and I think Jarno had some wisdom here too, and just talking about the human psychology and anthropology, et cetera. And Vivek is being very humble. He was CIO at the U.S. White House, so he's extremely knowledgeable of these issues. And actually, so what you talk about is the issue of who's going to win. Are the winners going to be those that are really working on security? BlackBerry failed not because of security; they were very good, but because they were the smartest dumb phone out there. It wasn't a full-on computer and operating system. They simply just couldn't keep up. Once Jobs launched iPhone and Android came out, truly computer-powered phones, pure software-based, really, or largely software-based. They didn't re-architect in time, so it wasn't so much they focused on security as just you have these waves, these paradigms of technology that go. But Vivek, I think you're right. In general, the winners in new space are the fast movers that deliver performance and functionality that consumers or industrial buyers want to have. Security gets added on later, and I bet the Salesforce story isn't that different, and even the Amazon story, both of which are super respected in the security community now. I mean, you have at Salesforce Tahir El-Gamel, one of the father of SSL, literally invented SSL, world-leading cryptographer, simply as a CTO in security. I mean, that's a pretty phenomenal thing. So you guys have built up the security because you've got a multi-billion-dollar business and franchise. And the trust of your business clients depends on that quality. And that's where I've always told people in government, because when I was in U.S. government in 2007 to 2009, people would ask me, "Oh, what do you think about this cloud? And can we ever trust going to the cloud?" And I said, you should probably have a lot more faith in the private sector guys getting security working than government people. Okay, just because of the incentives, because they'll lose billions of dollars if they don't get it right. So the reality is, as much as we security people, right, we always dream that when you do the next piece of technology, you're going to architect security in, right? That's what we want. We want to architect it in. It's the best way to get the security in. But the reality is most companies are just rushing to get market share and functionality, and then you're trying to put bandages on and do re-engineering. So, my advice to Nissan is, as Celso said as CIO, he looks to the boss and say, "I can't do the over-the-air updates, sir, until you give me permission." And so I say give him permission, because you're going to have to learn, you're going to have to iterate and move fast. And there's going to be problems, but you'll grow through it because you have to survive. And I think, with the Internet of Things, I can say some of the makers now are bringing in more security earlier. So you've got some provocative new small platforms that have very power efficient crypto chips in them, new IoT solutions base level. And that wouldn't have happened before. It's because people are at least thinking a little more about security. I think you're right.
Actually, you know, that the 3 years ago, when NISA announced to launch the autonomous car by 2020, at that time also I visited to the Silicon Valley to visit it and to, you know, that I visited to the some security companies. So I asked to the security companies, do you have any, you know, that the good device or tool 100% protect the hacker to the vehicles? All the security companies say no, impossible, you know. So that this is, you know, that I'm not the security guy, so that if security companies say no, we cannot protect 100%. Quite difficult for me, for the management, to take a risk. This is current situation.
No, but you know, with all due respect, Shiga-san, your mechanical engineers can't guarantee you no one's going to get killed in the car. In fact, you know people are going to get killed in the car because we humans forget to turn on the microphone or forget to watch the car in front of us because we're texting. I mean, so you're taking the risk anyway. And what I say is you need to get comfortable with it. And you were right, the red teaming or penetration testing is absolutely critical. You know, it's absolutely critical that you do that, and you can do that. And you can do also, you know, now you can have the reward schemes and bug bounties and get the crowdsource. The world will test the systems for you. You just got to pay him. He could probably tell you how to, Bjarne can tell you how to set all that up.
But I said this story was 3 years ago. Now the Nissan autonomous car becomes much safer. Don't worry.
Good. And I, actually, one thought I want to share too, if I may share, which is that, you know, you look at Japan, and historically, you know, I don't think people in the security community look to Japan as being the leader in security. Leader in manufacturing, leader in robots, leader in bullet trains, leader in so many areas, great quality cars. Finland, this small country, has been a leader in mobile technology, now a significant powerhouse in security. F-Secure is a terrific company there that Erica is from. But great research, great companies. So they've shown, and they're much smaller than Japan, but they've shown how you can be a small country, but focus on the research, focus on education, focus on the companies, and have and be very successful. And I think Japan can do that. And I think that the challenge for Japan is to look at the Olympics 5 years out and say, how do we be better than Finland? Right? Because you're not going to be better than the whole United States, you know.
But you don't have to be better than Finland. You can buy the solutions from Finland.
So how do you know, I think is that the nation state can really raise.
Okay, thank you. So, and 2 or 3 people is under, please.
By the way, originally, my company, Chanku Kim from Synopsys. This is an American company, but our technology actually came from Finland, called Namcon. We are well known in the community for unknown vulnerability testing. And Shiga-san, I think your analogy is very good because you have to hire hacker, but if you can't, afford hiring hacker, you should have unknown vulnerability testing automation tool. And I think this session is becoming an automotive session, but I think the whole industry is going that direction. And also, you mentioned the trust. Which company would you trust? One company having the best performance products, do everything by themselves, or another company who ask their supply chains to test their modules, security testing, functional testing, and then OEMs can do vulnerability testing, integration testing by themselves. All testing, consolidated testing, quality and security. Which one would you trust? See, the trust is not only just an intentional thing. See, in our society, we produce lots of products, and products are made of things. Products are made of things that may have vulnerabilities. That means we keep on producing vulnerabilities. So we have to minimize this risk by testing vulnerabilities, vulnerability testing, and then only these qualified modules you acquire, you procure, and then you do integration test. So that's, I think, what customers want. I drive cars too.
Very, very good comments. Okay, maybe last questions, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Joe Hall from the Center for Democracy and Technology. I really appreciate the comment about trust, and what I would call trustworthiness as a security guy myself, a privacy and security guy. It's not just the hackers that can get into your car. The vendor itself can get into your car, right? And so Tesla's a really interesting example. The New York Times had a review of a Tesla model a while ago, and it sort of wasn't a very favorable review of the Tesla. And Elon Musk posted a blog post where he was able to pull all the data from that test car and show the very granular GPS traveling of the car to show that, in fact, most of that review was entirely fictitious. But the weird thing was the backlash. You know, a lot of Tesla customers, not a lot, I mean, a significant amount of Tesla customers then said, wow, if Elon Musk can pull that information from my car, what can I do? And so they had to actually allow people to sort of go to the dealer and flip a little switch that allowed the car not to collect as much information. And so there's a stewardship angle here, I think, as well, is that as a vendor, I don't think you want to do something as blatant as that. I think you want to sort of understand that in addition to hackers getting in there, that you don't want to be an adversary against the customer yourself.
I think that the 2020 is the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic will be held, and also that 2020 is a kind of the starting year for the connected or autonomous cars. Most of all the automakers now, that are seriously challenging to develop the autonomous car. And 2020 is a target year, which maker is first. With completely full, that the reliabilities, trust this is, I think, most important thing. Okay, that time is coming, and I'd like to finish this session. Thank you very much for the participants. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Kendall who make the good summary for this session. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Kendall. Okay, thank you.
Japan has always been sort of a